The alien queen once called the human weak, then entrusted him with her throne. From the shuttle window, he watched the alien planet rotate beneath him, its surface dotted with enormous crystalline towers that shimmered in colors he could not name. Vast rivers of molten light snaked between jagged mountains, and clouds of floating spores drifted in patterns that seemed alive. The planet was beautiful but intimidating, and it was home to one of the most powerful alien species in the galaxy. Ethan adjusted his uniform and tried to steady his nerves. He had been chosen for this mission not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because humans had a reputation for cleverness. That, at least, was what the briefing had said. Still, he felt small, literally and figuratively, among the towering Zerathians. Their skin gleamed like polished stone, their eyes glowed with intensity, and their voices resonated in tones that shook the very air. "Remember," his commander had said, "you are a human and they will see you as weak. Your strength is your mind. Use it." Ethan nodded, but the words offered little comfort. The shuttle landed on a platform high above the city, suspended in the air by anti-gravity fields. A group of Zerathian guards approached, their limbs long and strong, moving with perfect precision. Ethan's stomach tightened. The leader of the group, a massive figure with emerald eyes and horned shoulders, examined him carefully. "You are human," the Zerathian said. The words were deep and musical, almost vibrating in Ethan's chest. "Small, fragile, why do you come to Zerath?" I come in peace," Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady despite the thrum of fear in his chest. "To learn, to help, to understand your people." The alien looked at him for a long moment, and then, surprisingly, it gestured for him to follow. Ethan stepped forward, each footfall feeling heavier than the last. He could feel the eyes of the Zerathian citizens watching him as he passed. Some whispered among themselves, though he could not understand the words. Others simply stared, curiosity etched in their features. Eventually, he arrived at the Hall of the Queen, a colossal structure of silver and crystal that seemed to pulse with light. The doors opened, and Ethan was ushered inside. The chamber was enormous, with ceilings so high that he could not see the top. Light reflected off the walls in dazzling patterns, and a soft hum filled the air. And at the far end, seated on a throne that seemed carved from living crystal, was Queen Lysara herself. She was enormous by human standards, even taller than the guards, her presence commanding the room. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian, and her eyes glowed with a fierce green light. Long, sharp claws rested on the arms of the throne, and her expression was one of amusement mixed with curiosity. "Human," she said, her voice echoing in the hall. "You are brave to come here, but you are weak, small, fragile. Do you know what it means to face a Zerathian in trial?" Ethan swallowed. He had read the reports. The trials were dangerous, designed to test not only strength but intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Many species had failed, some had perished, and humans with their soft bodies and delicate frames were considered practically defenseless. I want to try," he said, keeping his voice steady despite the quiver in his chest. Lysara's eyes narrowed. She gestured, and the floor beneath Ethan shifted. The ground became uneven, rising into sharp ridges and jagged spires. A series of challenges appeared, designed to test reflexes, endurance, and intellect. The first task was simple in theory: retrieve a glowing crystal from the top of a jagged spire. But for a human, it was nearly impossible. Zerathians could leap great distances and cling to surfaces effortlessly. Ethan had only his hands and feet, and the spire seemed to sway under his weight. He climbed cautiously, fingers scraping against the alien rock, heart hammering. Midway, a piece of the spire broke beneath him, sending him sliding down dangerously. He caught himself just in time, a sharp pain shooting through his arm. Sweat ran down his face. From the throne, Lysara watched silently. "Weak," she muttered under her breath. Ethan's mind raced. He could not rely on brute strength. That was obvious. But humans were clever, adaptable. He looked around and noticed a narrow ledge forming a spiral around the spire. It would take longer, but it was safer. Slowly, carefully, he made his way up, balancing with precision, timing each step to avoid unstable sections. Finally, he reached the top. The crystal glowed, warm to the touch. He grasped it, feeling a surge of relief and triumph. But the trial was not over. As he prepared to descend, a massive shard of crystal broke away from the spire, tumbling down toward another Zerathian participant who had been watching him with a sneer. Ethan acted without thinking. He dove, grabbing the Zerathian and pulling them out of harm's way. Both tumbled to the ground, but they were safe. Gasps echoed through the hall. Lysara's eyes widened. The human had saved one of her own, not with strength but with quick thinking and courage. "You see," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "This one is different." The next task involved strategy. Ethan had to navigate a complex maze filled with shifting walls and traps designed to confuse and trap the unprepared. The Zerathians moved through it effortlessly, relying on their instincts and strength. Ethan could not match them, but he observed patterns in the wall's movements and noticed hidden markers indicating safe paths. He memorized them, thinking 3 steps ahead, and navigated the maze successfully. By the time he emerged, the chamber was silent. The other participants looked at him with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Even the guards seemed impressed. Finally, Lysara spoke. "Human, you are fragile, yes, but you are clever, resourceful, and surprisingly brave. Few could have done what you have done today." Ethan exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over him. He had survived, and more than that, he had impressed the most powerful being on the planet. But Lysara was not done. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes glinting with a mixture of amusement and challenge. "Do not think this makes you strong. You are still human, but perhaps you have potential. I will watch you." Ethan nodded, though he knew this was only the beginning. The trials had shown him something important. Strength was not always about muscle. It was about courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when others could not. That night, Ethan lay in the small chamber provided for him. He stared at the alien sky through a crystal window, watching the twin moons rise over Zerath's jagged mountains. He thought about the day's trials, the impossible climbs, the maze, the moment when he had saved the Zerathian. For the first time since arriving, he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps humans were not as weak as everyone said. Perhaps here among the giants he could find a place, not just to survive but to make a difference. And somewhere in the depths of her throne room, Queen Lysara was thinking the same thing. This human is not like the others. The next morning, Ethan awoke to the soft hum of Zerath's crystal towers. Light danced across his chamber, shifting in patterns that reminded him of water. He stretched and ran a hand through his hair. The previous day's trials still weighed on him, his muscles sore, his mind buzzing with the memory of the jagged spires and the maze. Yet beneath the fatigue was a quiet excitement. He had survived. He had proven something. And he knew that Queen Lysara would be watching him closely. When he stepped out of his chamber, the alien guards were waiting. One of them, a female Zerathian named Virila, gestured for him to follow. They walked in silence through the city, their footsteps echoing on the smooth, crystalline streets. From time to time, Ethan noticed small groups of aliens watching him curiously, some whispering, others pointing. He imagined their thoughts. The weak human, what can he do next? Eventually, they arrived at a massive courtyard, open to the sky. In its center was a circular platform, etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly. Several Zerathians stood around, observing him. Ethan recognized a few from the previous day's trials. Some looked skeptical, others openly amused. Queen Lysara appeared, descending the stairs of her throne with graceful authority. Her gaze settled on Ethan, her green eyes piercing and unyielding. "Human," she said, her voice calm but commanding. Yesterday, you survived challenges that would have crushed most species. Today, you face a different test. This test will measure not your strength but your mind and your heart. You must navigate the complexities of Zerathian society and solve problems that no weapon can fix. Ethan nodded. He had no illusions. He was entering unknown territory, a realm where human habits and instincts would be tested against the most intelligent and proud species in the galaxy. Your first challenge, Lysara continued, is diplomacy. Two Zerathian clans are in conflict over the use of a sacred crystal mine. Violence is likely unless a solution is found. You will mediate. The clans, the Orcs and the Kirans, approached. Both groups were massive, their bodies gleaming in the sunlight. The Orcs had dark emerald skin, while the Kirans shimmered like polished silver. Their voices rumbled like distant thunder as they argued, neither willing to give ground. Ethan could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to slice with a knife. He took a deep breath. Think, Ethan, think like a human. Use what you know about communication and fairness. He spoke slowly, carefully. I understand that both sides value the crystal mine, he said. It is important to both of you. Fighting will only harm everyone. Perhaps there is a way to share, or to find another solution that benefits all. The alien stared at him. A human had never mediated a conflict among their species before. Many expected him to fail, to be ignored, or worse. One of the Orcs stepped forward. And why should we listen to a human? You are weak. You do not understand our ways. Ethan met the alien's gaze steadily. I may not be strong, but I can see what happens when fighting continues. I can see a future where both of you benefit instead of losing everything. He proposed a compromise. The mine would be shared, with each clan responsible for part of the operation, and a joint council would oversee decisions. To ensure fairness, he suggested a system of rotation and cooperation that relied on trust and communication rather than force. The clans argued for a long moment, but slowly, Ethan's reasoning began to take hold. The concept of cooperation was foreign but logical. By the time the sun had moved high in the sky, the Orcs and Kirans had agreed to a trial period of shared governance. Cheers erupted quietly among some observers while others muttered in disbelief. Queen Lysara's eyes were sharp and calculating. Interesting, she said. You use reasoning instead of strength. You see solutions that others cannot. This is promising. Ethan exhaled, feeling a small surge of pride. Diplomacy had succeeded. He had not relied on muscle or weapons, only on human ingenuity and understanding. Next, Lysara led him to a chamber filled with strange devices and glowing panels. This is your next challenge, she said. You must solve a technological problem. One of our communication towers has malfunctioned, disrupting signals across the city. It is beyond the capability of most Zerathians to repair quickly. Can a human fix it? Ethan approached the tower's interface, studying its complex design. Alien technology was unfamiliar, but patterns were patterns and logic was universal. He analyzed the circuits, tracing energy flows and identifying the source of the malfunction. It required patience, careful observation, and a willingness to experiment. Hours passed. Ethan adjusted panels, rerouted energy, and recalibrated sensors. Sparks flew occasionally, and a low hum filled the chamber. He paused often, thinking carefully, refusing to rush. Eventually, the tower flickered to life and signals spread throughout the city once more. The Zerathians present gasped. It is working, one muttered. Another nodded. The human has done what we could not. Queen Lysara smiled faintly. Resourceful, clever. You do not rely on brute force, yet you accomplish what others cannot. Perhaps there is more to you than I first thought. For Ethan, the feeling of accomplishment was accompanied by exhaustion. Each test pushed him to his limits, both mentally and physically. But he could not rest. He sensed that these trials were only the beginning, that Lysara was watching for more than simple success. She was watching for character, for the qualities that might one day make him extraordinary. The final challenge of the day was unexpected. Ethan was taken to the gardens of Zirath, a vast, suspended network of flora and fauna unlike anything he had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants floated in the air, and creatures of shimmering light and delicate wings flitted among them. Lysara gestured to a series of damaged plants. "These species are essential to Zirathian life," she said. "Their survival is threatened by disease. Can you save them?" Ethan knelt beside the plants, observing carefully. He had little experience with alien biology, but he remembered principles of care, observation, and adaptation from his training on Earth. He experimented gently, using alien nutrients and natural methods to encourage growth. He worked tirelessly, adjusting his approach when something failed. Slowly, the plants stabilized, their colors returning to bright, healthy tones. Lysara watched silently from a distance. Then she stepped forward. "Human," she said, her voice softer than before. "You have not only intelligence but empathy. You care for life, even that which is not your own. Few Zirathians possess this gift. It is remarkable." Ethan looked up, surprised. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said. I just did what I could." "You did more than that," she replied. "You see solutions where others see only obstacles. You act when others hesitate. That is leadership, human. That is strength of a different kind." For the first time, Ethan felt that his size, his weakness in the eyes of the Zirathians, did not matter. He realized that human qualities, curiosity, empathy, creativity, and courage, could make a difference even in a world dominated by beings far stronger than himself. As the sun set over Zirath, bathing the gardens in a soft, golden glow, Ethan reflected on the day's trials. He had faced skepticism, danger, and the impossible, yet he had succeeded. More importantly, he had begun to understand something profound. Strength was not always physical. Sometimes it was in the mind. Sometimes it was in the heart. And somewhere in the throne room above, Queen Lysara watched him carefully. She had tested many species. Most failed in one way or another, unable to see beyond brute force or self-interest. But Ethan, he was different. She could see it now. The spark of ingenuity, the willingness to act, the courage to face danger, and the compassion to care for life. These were rare traits, even among the Zirathians. The human had survived the trials of the mind and heart. And Lysara, for the first time, wondered if this fragile, clever creature might one day surpass expectations in ways even she could not predict. Ethan returned to his chamber that night, tired but exhilarated. He had begun to prove himself, not as a warrior, but as a thinker, a problem solver, a human capable of making a difference in a galaxy full of strength and pride. He did not yet know what the future held, but one thing was certain. On Zirath, humans could surprise even the mightiest beings. And somewhere high above, in the throne room, Queen Lysara whispered to herself, a rare smile forming on her face. This human may not be weak after all. Ethan had begun to feel a sense of belonging on Zirath. Though the aliens still regarded him as small and fragile, many had begun to respect his cleverness, his ability to solve problems, and his calm courage under pressure. But the comfort of progress was short-lived. One morning, while Ethan was observing the alien city from a high platform, the sky suddenly darkened. At first, he thought it was a storm, but the patterns in the clouds were unnatural, swirling with metallic glimmers that reflected the twin suns. Alarms rang throughout the city, a deep, resonating sound that shook the crystal towers. Ethan turned to see Queen Lysara approaching, her expression sharp and urgent. "Human," she said, her voice carrying over the din. "You must come with me immediately. There is a threat approaching, unlike anything Zirath has faced in centuries." "What kind of threat?" Ethan asked, gripping the railing. "Machines," she said. "An interstellar fleet sent by no known species. They consume everything in their path." Planets, cities, life itself, they leave nothing behind. Ethan felt a chill. He had read about rogue machine fleets in galactic archives, but seeing one approaching in reality was terrifying. He had not faced physical threats like this before. He was clever, yes, but how could a single human influence events on such a massive scale? Lysara led him to the command tower, a massive structure with panels glowing with alien symbols. Zerathian officers crowded around, their bodies tense, voices raised in anxious discussion. Ethan's eyes widened at the size of the fleet now visible through the panoramic window. Hundreds of massive machines, some larger than entire cities, were moving in precise formation, consuming anything in their path. "Your people are not built for this," Lysara said, looking at him with a mixture of concern and expectation. "We will fight, but our strength alone may not be enough. We need strategy, intelligence, and perhaps ingenuity beyond Zerathian thinking." Ethan nodded. "Then we need a plan," he said, forcing calm into his voice. "Tell me everything you know about these machines, their patterns, weaknesses, anything that might help." Over the next hours, Ethan absorbed information at a furious pace. The machines were highly intelligent, but predictable in certain patterns. They were powered by a central network, which coordinated their actions. Their outer armor was nearly impervious, but their sensors and energy cores had slight vulnerabilities that could be exploited. Ethan sketched diagrams, drew patterns, and proposed ideas. "We can't fight them head-on," he said. "We don't have the numbers, and our weapons won't pierce their armor. But if we split their attention, create diversions, and target the control network, we might be able to disable a portion of the fleet at once." Zerathian officers exchanged glances. Some nodded slowly, intrigued by the humans' ideas. Others were skeptical. Queen Lysara studied him silently, her eyes narrowing in thought. "You propose a risky plan," she said finally. "It could succeed, or it could fail spectacularly." "I know," Ethan replied. "But if we do nothing, the planet will be destroyed. We have to act." The preparations began immediately. Ethan coordinated with Zerathian engineers, scientists, and strategists. He explained the plan in simple terms, breaking down complex steps into clear actions. He assigned roles, combining human ingenuity with Zerathian strength. His approach was different from anything the aliens had seen. He did not demand obedience. He persuaded, explained, and encouraged cooperation. Slowly, the plan took shape. The first stage involved creating decoys to draw the machines away from the main city. Ethan suggested using floating crystals, manipulated to emit signals that mimicked Zerathian energy signatures. Zerathian engineers were skeptical. "This is unorthodox," one officer said. "That is the point," Ethan replied. "The machines expect us to fight them directly. They do not expect creativity." Within hours, the decoys were in place. Ethan watched from the command tower as the fleet reacted. As predicted, the machines diverted some of their forces toward the false signals, leaving gaps in their formation. The next stage required small teams to strike at weak points in the fleet. Ethan volunteered to guide one, not because he wanted glory, but because he understood that close observation was critical to the plan's success. He was paired with a Zerathian warrior named Chrisen, a towering figure with muscles like carved stone. Chrisen's initial scowl softened as he observed Ethan's confidence and clarity. "You are not like other humans," Chrisen said quietly as they moved into position. "Most would panic." "I've had practice," Ethan replied, keeping his voice calm. "We just need to follow the plan." As they approached the first machine, Ethan pointed out weak spots. "Sensors here, energy conduits here. We strike simultaneously and we disrupt their network." Chrisen nodded, and together they executed the maneuver with precision. Explosions flashed across the sky, machines faltered, and small sections of the fleet were disabled. Ethan's heart raced, but he kept calm, coordinating the teams like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Meanwhile, the decoys drew the bulk of the machines away, and Zerathian forces struck in calculated waves. Ethan's strategy relied on timing, coordination, and careful observation, qualities that the Zerathians had undervalued in humans. Hours passed. The battle raged, chaos and brilliance intertwined. Ethan moved from team to team, offering guidance, adjusting tactics, and keeping morale high. He noticed that Zerathians began to trust him, not just for his ideas but for his steady presence in the storm. Finally, the central network controlling the machines was exposed. Ethan analyzed the patterns and then gave the order. Strike now! A coordinated assault hit the central core. Energy exploded and the machines faltered. Some powered down completely, others retreated into space. The fleet was defeated, not destroyed but broken and scattered, unable to threaten Zerath again. Silence fell over the battlefield. Zerathians stood among the remnants, breathing heavily, their eyes wide with amazement. Ethan's chest rose and fell, exhaustion settling into every muscle. He had survived against impossible odds. Queen Lysara appeared, her expression unreadable at first. Then slowly, a rare smile spread across her face. "Human, you have done what many believed impossible. You led, you planned, and you acted with courage. You are remarkable." Ethan bowed slightly. "I did what I could, Your Majesty. I could not have done it without your people's strength." "No," Lysara said, stepping closer. "You did not just survive. You succeeded where others would have failed. You have proven that true strength is not measured in size or force, but in vision, courage, and leadership." For the first time, Ethan felt the full weight of the Zerathian respect. Aliens who had once mocked him now regarded him with admiration. Some even approached him quietly, offering nods of acknowledgement. As the sky darkened with the settling dust of battle, Ethan looked out at the city he had helped save. Crystals glowed faintly, towers reflected the light of the setting suns, and the people of Zerath moved among the ruins with renewed hope. He realized that he had become more than a visitor. He had become a leader, not by force, but by human ingenuity and courage. That night in his chamber, Ethan reflected on the day's events. The machines had been powerful, relentless, and terrifying. Yet they had been overcome, not by raw strength, but by planning, cooperation, and quick thinking. Humans, he realized, had a unique advantage: the ability to see solutions where others saw only obstacles. Somewhere in her throne room, Queen Lysara watched him again. She had seen warriors, conquerors, and scholars. Few had left a mark on her as Ethan had. He was human, yes, fragile by her standards, but in his mind and heart he carried the power to inspire, to strategize, and to lead. "This one," she whispered softly to herself, "may change the fate of Zerath." And Ethan, unaware of the full weight of her words, simply looked out over the city, thinking about tomorrow and the challenges that would surely come next. For the first time, he understood that human ingenuity, courage, and heart could make a difference, even in a galaxy dominated by beings far stronger and larger than himself. He had faced the impossible, and he had triumphed. And he knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning. The morning after the battle, Zerath was quiet, almost eerily so. The sky still carried streaks of smoke and flickering sparks from the retreating machines. Ethan walked through the city streets, observing the damage. Crystalline towers had fractured, smaller buildings lay in ruins, and alien citizens moved cautiously, repairing and cleaning as they went. Despite the destruction, there was an air of resilience. The city had survived and the people were determined to rebuild. Ethan felt the weight of exhaustion pressing on him. His muscles ached, his mind was fatigued from constant strategizing, and yet there was no time to rest. Queen Lysara summoned him to the council hall, a vast chamber filled with her advisors and military leaders. The tension in the room was palpable. The question on everyone's mind: could Zerath withstand another attack? "Human," Lysara said as Ethan entered, her voice commanding attention, Your strategy saved Zereth yesterday, but we are not safe yet. The machines may regroup or other threats may arise. We must prepare. Your insight is required again." Ethan nodded. "Then we should start immediately. We need to strengthen our defenses, repair vulnerabilities, and train our forces to anticipate what the machines, or any enemy, might do next." The council murmured among themselves. Many were still skeptical of a human leading discussions about Zerath's defense, but Ethan did not falter. He pulled out a holographic display and began explaining his ideas. "First, we must rebuild critical infrastructure with redundancy," he said. "If a tower falls or a city sector is damaged, communication lines and energy sources must have backups. Second, we must train our forces to work together in coordinated units, using both strategy and strength. Third, we need a monitoring system to detect threats before they arrive." Zerathian engineers leaned forward, impressed. They began suggesting adjustments, and Ethan incorporated their ideas seamlessly. His approach was different from the traditional Zerathian methods. He did not command blindly. He observed, listened, and combined the best aspects of human logic with Zerathian power. Slowly, the room shifted from skepticism to cautious optimism. "Your plan, it could work," one officer said. Another nodded. "The human sees angles we might miss." Ethan felt a spark of pride but kept his focus. "We must act quickly. Time is short and preparation is key." Days passed. Ethan worked tirelessly with the Zerathians, coordinating repairs, training exercises, and new strategies. The city began to regain its former brilliance. The crystalline towers glimmered once more, repaired stronger than before. Citizens whispered about the human who had not only saved their city, but now helped them prepare for the future. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the jagged mountains, Ethan stood atop a tower with Chrisen, the Zerathian warrior who had fought by his side during the battle. "You have changed things," Chrisen said quietly. "Your thinking, your leadership, it is unlike anything we have seen." Ethan looked out at the city, the glowing lights reflecting in the pools of molten energy below. "I just did what I could," he said humbly. "Your people have strength. I just tried to guide it." Chrisen smiled faintly. "Guidance can be more powerful than strength. You have shown that today." But the calm did not last. A scout ship reported unusual activity on the outskirts of the system. More machines were detected, moving with purpose and intelligence. The fleet from the previous battle was larger this time. It was clear that they had regrouped. The city held its breath. Queen Lysara convened the council again. Ethan stood at the center, ready to present a strategy. He had spent nights analyzing data, considering possibilities, and preparing contingency plans. "This time," he said, "we cannot rely solely on reaction. We must be proactive. We need to engage the fleet before it reaches the city, but we must do so with precision. We cannot waste resources or risk unnecessary casualties." The council listened as Ethan outlined a multi-layered plan: diversion tactics to scatter the fleet, strike teams to target weak points, and protective barriers around key zones. His plan required coordination, timing, and trust in one another. "Do you really think a human can lead us in this?" one officer asked, doubt still in his voice. Ethan looked him in the eyes. "I don't lead alone. I guide, I coordinate, and I trust your strength. Together we are unstoppable." The officer nodded slowly, convinced by Ethan's calm confidence. When the fleet arrived, it was more terrifying than before. Hundreds of massive machines moved in perfect formation, their metallic bodies reflecting the suns. They had learned from their previous defeat, but so had Zerath. Ethan moved among the teams, giving instructions, adjusting tactics, and predicting the fleet's movements. He had anticipated their patterns and prepared traps and diversions that relied on both human creativity and Zerathian might. The first wave of machines encountered the energy traps Ethan had devised. They faltered, some disabled instantly, others forced to retreat. Zerathian strike teams moved in, taking advantage of the disruption. Ethan coordinated every move, timing attacks and guiding defenses with precision. Midway through the battle, a massive machine approached the city's central tower. Ethan realized that if it reached the heart of the city, devastation would be inevitable. Thinking quickly, he directed a Zerathian squad to create a diversion while he led a team to intercept the machine. The plan was risky. If they failed, the tower would fall. Ethan ignored the fear gnawing at his mind. "We move now," he shouted. Using agility, strategy, and careful timing, Ethan and the squad reached the machine. It was enormous, its armor nearly indestructible, but Ethan had identified a flaw in its energy core. He signaled the team, and together they struck precisely. Sparks flew, energy systems overloaded, and the machine collapsed. The city erupted in cheers. Zerathians who had once doubted Ethan now saw him not as weak, but as brilliant, courageous, and essential. Queen Lysara descended to the battlefield, her expression one of pride and amazement. "Human," she said, her voice carrying across the square, "you have not only defended Zerath, but you have taught us something priceless. Strength is not always in size or power. It is in courage, intelligence, and vision." Ethan felt a surge of humility and pride. He had never thought of himself as extraordinary, but in this moment he realized that humans could achieve greatness in ways even the mightiest alien species might not expect. As the fleet retreated, scattered and defeated, Lysara addressed the gathered citizens. "Today, Zerath stands because of unity, courage, and the guidance of a human who has shown us that wisdom and ingenuity are as powerful as strength. We owe our survival not only to Zerathian might but to the heart and mind of this human." The citizens erupted in celebration, cheering Ethan's name. For the first time in Zerathian history, a human had earned the admiration of an entire civilization. Children waved small flags, elders nodded in respect, and warriors saluted. Ethan felt overwhelmed but also deeply honored. That evening, Lysara summoned him to her throne room. She regarded him with a mix of thoughtfulness and curiosity. "Human, you have shown extraordinary skill, courage, and leadership. You have saved Zerath not once but twice. You have proven that even the smallest among us can achieve greatness." Ethan bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I could. I could not have succeeded without your people's strength and cooperation." "No," Lysara said, her voice steady. "You did more than guide. You inspired. You showed us that true strength is not always measured by muscle or size, but by wisdom, courage, and heart. You have changed our perception of humans forever." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He had come to Zerath as a visitor, small and fragile, expected to fail. Instead, he had become a symbol of hope, a testament to human ingenuity and courage. As he looked out over the city from the throne room balcony, the lights of Zerath twinkling like stars reflected on crystal towers, Ethan knew that his journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more trials. But for the first time, he understood that humans had a place among the stars, not through brute strength, but through the qualities that made them unique: ingenuity, empathy, courage, and the determination to face the impossible. And somewhere in the shadows of her throne, Queen Lysara watched him quietly, a rare smile on her face. She had once believed humans weak and fragile. Now she saw that Ethan's heart and mind were worthy of admiration, perhaps even worthy of leadership. For the first time, Ethan felt that the impossible was within reach. He had won against overwhelming odds, not through sheer power, but through the very qualities that made humans remarkable. And Zerath, the proud and mighty planet, had begun to see humans in a new light. The day ended with celebrations across the city, yet Ethan could not rest. He knew that this victory was only the beginning. Greater challenges would come, but he now had the confidence and respect needed to face them. Zerath was safe, for now, and humanity had made its mark in a galaxy that once underestimated it. And Queen Lysara, ever watchful, whispered to herself as she looked at him, "Perhaps this human is destined for more than I ever imagined." The city of Zirath sparkled under the twin suns, its crystal towers gleaming brighter than ever. The threat of the rogue machines had been defeated, and the citizens were celebrating with songs, laughter, and glowing lights. Yet, amidst the joy, a deeper question lingered in Queen Lysara's mind. Ethan Calloway, the human who had arrived as a small, fragile visitor, had proven himself in ways no one could have imagined. He had saved the planet, inspired the people, and led with a combination of courage, intelligence, and heart. Lysara watched him from her throne room, noting how he moved among the citizens, offering encouragement, guidance, and reassurance. He was not a ruler by birth, yet the people followed him naturally. The queen's advisors whispered among themselves. Many had begun to see Ethan as more than just a visitor. "He is remarkable," one said. "He leads not with force but with mind and heart. Perhaps he is worthy of something greater." Lysara's green eyes glimmered. "Yes," she thought. "This human has shown qualities beyond what many of us possess. Perhaps it is time to make a choice that will change Zirath forever." She summoned Ethan to the throne room. As he entered, he bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said, "is everything all right?" "Human," Lysara replied, her voice calm but filled with weight. "You have accomplished what few could even imagine. You have shown bravery, wisdom, and compassion. You have inspired my people and saved Zirath from destruction. And now I must ask you something of great importance." Ethan's heart beat faster. He had not expected this. "Anything, Your Majesty," he said. Lysara rose from her throne, her figure towering and regal. "I have ruled Zirath for many cycles, and I have faced challenges that tested every measure of strength and wisdom. Few have ever impressed me as you have, human. You are extraordinary in ways I did not anticipate. And now I must consider the future of this planet." Ethan felt a mixture of pride and unease. I am honored, Your Majesty, but I do not seek power. I only wish to help." Lysara nodded. "I know, and that is why you are worthy. True leadership is not about desire for power, but the courage to do what is right. I have decided to entrust you with my throne." Ethan froze. He could not believe what he had heard. "My throne, Your Majesty, I am human. I do not belong here. I cannot rule Zirath." "You have already shown that you can lead," Lysara said firmly. "Your mind, your heart, and your courage have earned the respect of my people. You understand strategy, empathy, and justice in ways few Zirathians do. You are not weak. You are the one capable of guiding Zirath into a new era." The throne room was silent. Citizens had gathered, curious about the announcement. Zirathians of every age, size, and shape watched Ethan, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and admiration. Some whispered among themselves, "A human ruling Zirath." Ethan's mind raced. "Your Majesty, I am honored truly, but I have no experience as a ruler. How can I make decisions for an entire planet?" "You do not rule alone," Lysara said. "You have learned from me. You have worked alongside our best minds, our warriors, and our scholars. You have proven that humans, though small, can achieve greatness through thought, courage, and heart. Your perspective is unique. Your choices will unite Zirath, not divide it." Ethan swallowed, realizing the weight of her words. He looked around at the people who had witnessed his journey. Chrisen, the warrior who had fought beside him, Virila, the officer who had guided him, the engineers, scholars, and citizens whose lives he had touched. They trusted him. And now Queen Lysara was trusting him. He took a deep breath. "If it is my duty to serve Zirath, I will do my best, not for power but for the people and for the future." Lysara's smile softened. "That is all I could hope for, human. You understand what it means to lead, and you do so not for glory but for responsibility." With a graceful motion, she gestured to the throne. "Step forward." Ethan approached cautiously, his hand brushing the smooth, living crystal of the seat. It was heavier than he expected, not in weight but in meaning. He felt the pulse of history, the legacy of countless rulers who had come before. Yet, for the first time, he felt that he belonged. As he sat, the crowd erupted in cheers. Ethan looked out at the citizens of Zerath, feeling a profound sense of purpose. He was no longer merely a visitor. He was a leader, entrusted not because of strength or size, but because of qualities that were uniquely human: intelligence, courage, compassion, and the ability to inspire trust. The first order of business was immediate. Ethan addressed the citizens from the throne, his voice steady and clear. "People of Zerath," he began, "we have faced great danger together. We have survived what seemed impossible. But this is not the end. It is only the beginning. We will rebuild our cities, strengthen our defenses, and ensure that our world remains safe. But we will also grow, learn, and explore new ways of thinking. Together, we will build a future worthy of Zerath." The citizens listened intently, their eyes bright with hope. They saw not a human foreigner, but a leader who had proven himself through action, courage, and wisdom. Cheers rose again, louder than before, echoing through the crystal towers. Ethan worked tirelessly in the days that followed. He consulted with engineers, scholars, and military leaders, incorporating their knowledge while offering his own unique perspective. He encouraged cooperation, dialogue, and innovation. He introduced new methods of problem-solving, combining human creativity with Zerathian strength. Under his guidance, the city flourished. Crystalline towers became more resilient, energy systems were upgraded, and citizens were trained not only to defend their homes, but to think critically and work together. Zerathians who had once doubted humans now looked to Ethan as a symbol of unity and possibility. One evening, Lysara visited him in his private chambers. "You have done well," she said, her tone both proud and reflective. "I have watched rulers come and go, but few have inspired their people as you have. You were called weak, small, fragile, yet you have proven them wrong at every step. I am glad I trusted you." Ethan smiled humbly. "I only did what I could. Your guidance and the strength of your people made it possible." "You have changed the way Zerath sees humans," Lysara replied. "Not just as survivors or helpers, but as equals capable of greatness. This will be remembered for generations." As they spoke, Ethan thought of his journey. The trials in the Hall of the Queen, the diplomatic challenges, the rogue machine fleet, and the countless decisions that had tested his mind and heart. Each step had been difficult, but each had led him to this moment. The following weeks were filled with celebration and planning. Citizens rebuilt damaged structures, children learned from both human and Zerathian teachers, and the city pulsed with life and hope. Ethan continued to work tirelessly, not as a ruler seeking power, but as a leader dedicated to service. One day, he walked through the central plaza, observing the people who now looked to him for guidance. Children ran past, laughing, some imitating his gestures and words. Citizens approached him with questions, suggestions, and gratitude. He realized that leadership was not about sitting on a throne, but about being present, listening, and making thoughtful choices. Chrisen approached him, smiling broadly. "You have truly earned this, human. The people trust you, I trust you, and I know that Zerath will thrive under your guidance." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, Chrisen. I will do my best, not just for now, but for the future." That evening, as the sun set and the city glowed with 1,000 lights, Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking Zerath. The people were safe, the city was strong, and the lessons he had learned as a human navigating an alien world had given him a deeper understanding of leadership, courage, and the power of ingenuity. Somewhere in her throne room, Queen Lysara observed quietly. She had once called humans weak. Now she knew that they were capable of greatness, and Ethan had proven it. She smiled, knowing that Zerath's future was in good hands. Ethan, the human who had once been underestimated, now held the throne, not because of strength, but because of qualities that transcended size or power: intelligence, empathy, courage, and the unwavering determination to do what was right. And as the twin moons rose over Zerath, casting silver light across the city, Ethan felt a quiet certainty in his heart. Humanity could achieve greatness, even in the most alien of worlds. And with trust, courage, and wisdom, they could change the course of history itself. Zerath was safe, its people inspired, and a human had earned a place among the stars. The future was bright, and for the first time Ethan understood the true meaning of strength. Strength was not in the body. It was in the mind. It was in the heart. And in that truth, he had found his destiny.